Hey, what's up guys? This is really Bonfire back with another amazing tutorial. And I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, AI, and how it will change our industry, especially for 3D artists, designers, art directors like me. Of course, this is just from my standpoint and my experience with clients in 2025. But I can tell you that AI was, at least to some degree, always a part of the process in the pipeline of my client projects in 2025. But I also can calm you down. It was just used in the ideation, in the style frame process, to get ideas, but then at a certain point everything was done in 3D to push it to the final quality. At the same point, I know that certain clients like Coca-Cola or McDonald's trying to put everybody out of their jobs and streamline the process to just some people to create this completely AI generated ads, but we can all see this huge backlash against these campaigns. So overall, I'm pretty positive for 2026 that 3D artists will still have a lot of work, but of course we have to adapt and see where we can put AI into our workflows. So let me just give you maybe a little case study here, just an example on how I'm using AI. For example, I'm creating this artwork here. And by the way, this one is heavily inspired by this campaign for Van Cleef and Arpels. You can see how beautiful this one is arranged. If you know something about art direction and design, then you can see that everything is carefully balanced out to create an image which gives you this high quality luxury feeling that a brand like this one deserves and needs for their campaign. So for example, let me just go over here. You can see the artists involved in this job. They applied this carefully art direction to all of the shots. This one is also looking amazing. And I also think that it's just funny that they put in some classic 3D spheres. And I know how tempting it is to just put a sphere into your render to get some transparency or some beautiful long shadows. So I can totally understand what they are doing here. This is also looking amazing. And just look at this one. So also the little details like this one, it's just very, very nice. And overall, just a beautiful campaign. And hopefully I'm not totally wrong and they used AI for this. This would be totally embarrassing for me. But I think that this one was a classic 3D job. So I take this one as an inspiration. But you can see, for example, when I would work for this client, then I could easily create an image like this one. But then for the background to get all of this stuff back there, I mean, depending on if you want to overwhelm your client with how fast you are, you could then, instead of building this one, because depending on your skill level, this could take you maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe even half a day or even a day to, for example, build several mountains with different structures on it to put it into your scene. So if you want to be fast on the first day, then you could, for example, yes, just prompt this one to Gemini or ChatGPT to generate assets like this one. You can see that they are far away from being perfect. A lot of this is not making sense, or you can see how ugly this one is. So also in the prompting phase here, if you want to prompt assets for your image, then still a good eye and art direction is needed from you. So I would say it will be pretty naive if you think that you can enter the business if you don't understand anything about design and composition and all of that stuff. So still, I would say train your eye and understand when an image is looking good, how it will be balanced out and all of that stuff. And by the way, you can learn this on my Patreon. But other than that, you can see I'm generating different versions here. Okay, this one is a little bit crispy, but I also want to have some detail in the shadow. Anyway, I can use those assets then, for example, here in my After Effects composition. But keep in mind, I'm still in control about the whole process and I'm building almost everything here by scratch. I just try to streamline certain phases of the project. Of course, for some clients, maybe the quality of this one will be already good enough. But I would say when you work for high quality brands, and this one is definitely a high quality brand, Van Bonfire is a little bit cringeworthy. But anyway, later, most probably you will still have time to also build these structures then in 3D to let them react precisely to the light changes. And especially when you would go into animation, then you would also build this one. I just want to say, you can see here in my composition, this is the rendering, how I put it out in 3D. But then, yeah, you could just place these elements here in your shot. But I would say it's still important for you to have the control here to just treat these ones as assets and not just use AI as a final image generator. This is just lacking all the precision that you would really need for brands like this one. Okay, and you can see that I'm just pushing them here into my scene, but then also you have to work with different effectors on this one to integrate it perfectly into the shot. So I think that this one just needs a little bit of color tint, a little bit of depth and field. And then you can also see when I would go back here into this underlaying comp, you can see that this one is the result that I'm getting from my AI image generator. But this is not exactly what I would need for the shot. So still you would have to put put effects onto it, tint it, layer it until you get something which will work in your rendering. So still, even that I'm using in this project phase AI, you can see that without an understanding of how to build an image, you will be completely lost. If you can only prompt an image and you don't know how to work with it, I would say it will be hard for you to enter the business if you don't have any technical skills and if you just don't have a trained eye to build campaigns like this one for high quality brands. So anyway, I just wanted to show you here that you can use AI here, but at the same point, just be sure that now when I would go back into my 3D shot here, for example, and by the way, I deactivated displacement shader on the snow landscape just to have a faster feedback here in Redshift. But you can see now for these landscapes, I could now, of course, because they are in my 3D scene, I can easily iterate through different compositions. I could make this one bigger, do something like that. Let's just go to the foreground here and also change that. Maybe you want to go for something like this one, or you prefer an arrangement like this. You can also, once again, just change the scaling here, make this one a little bit more flat maybe, or just balance the image a little bit differently to get a curve like this one into the shot, and then you could put a little bit of a village back there. And of course now this one, you could also animate this. You can see that I could swirl this one around. Let me just quickly scrub through it. So this one is a rigid body simulation also done in Cinema 4D. There are several lessons here on advanced rigid bodies with jewelry on my Patreon. So you can see there is a whole series about this topic. And of course, I know that there are also 3D model generators. I also tested them and have a good eye on them when they will be able to replace your modeling skills. But I can tell you they are far away in regards of precision. So if you would work with an asset like this one from a client, then yeah, I can also show you how you model this one in 3D. But the thing what I want to tell you is that it's a good thing if you have this one carefully modeled and placed in your 3D shot. You can easily change the lighting in the scene and all of that stuff. Yeah, I just want to tell you to keep in mind that maybe these AI generated pieces, they are just a placeholder for something that later in the process with the client, you will just build in 3D. And keep in mind, if you are a professional 3D artist, then you are super fast with the tools. And of course, AI can give you 100 iterations faster than you in 3D. But I can tell you, I can build such iterations, maybe then 20 or 30 on a day. Maybe this will just be 1% of the image generation that AI could spit out. But I can tell you, my images, they are very carefully art directed already with the client needs in mind. So even if you can only spit out 30 images or 20 or maybe even 10 just in a day, they will have more of the precision and the quality. And then it will not just be about the amount of images and more about the quality and not just the quantity. Okay, so yeah, you can see that I could animate all of this one now in Cinema 4D. I could change the lighting, the hill arrangement and all of that stuff. Of course, maybe just one more inspiration. Maybe in a certain phase, you could also art direct together with the AI. For example, maybe it would be too time consuming to give this sphere like a little trail back there. Of course, I can easily do this also in the displacement shader in Cinema 4D, but maybe, yeah, this one will take a little bit longer. So you could try to art direct together with the AI your renderings further to give them more details. For example, I would like to have a sphere over here with another trail, but then just keep in mind that sometimes, even if you are very precise with your prompting, with your direction, sometimes AI is just losing it and will then just give you something completely different. For example, this red carpet here, I wasn't really asking for this, but then maybe I have to also think about fine-tuning my prompting skills to get exactly what I need. So you can see that, for example, here AI helped me to generate this trail, and I would say that this one is looking very beautiful, but at the same time, this one was not the first result. So you can see that I went through a process together with AI prompting, art directing it into a direction that, for example, here, this one was too wide and this one was too deep. So I wanted to have it a little bit more narrow, a little bit more displacement, but then I felt still that this one felt a bit too heavy down there. So I wanted to have a little bit more subsurface scattering here and just make it not that deep. And then I landed on something like this one. So it will help when you also have the right vocabulary and you know how this one is called, that the snow has a certain level of subsurface scattering. And then you can, yeah, just art direct together with the AI certain details into your shots. But yeah, this one is sometimes a fail and error process. So you can see that here I'm not getting exactly what I want for my art direction for the secondary sphere. I'm still fine-tuning this process of adding details with AI, but yeah, you can see that this one could be a phase of a future project where I want to give a client just more ideas, more iterations faster. But yeah, you are still in control and need to be a good art director and know how an image is built and how it is balanced out. So I would say stay away from prompting just an image and give it to your client, because you will have no control and everything will just fall apart after some hours working with the client when they realize, okay, you can't give them any precision, you can't actually build anything in 3D, you don't know how to use a camera or light or all of that stuff. So I would say you have a huge advantage as a 3D artist, especially if you are also a good art director. So overall, I think we should not worry totally about 2026 that there will be no more work. At least this is my feeling for 2026. And once again, let me say that this one was just a case study based on this campaign for Van Cleef and Arpels. I just played a little bit with it. And let me also mention that I could build complex background structures like this one with my marble kit, but it is just a question when and where you put the effort and time into your project. So yeah, this was just a little case study. And by the way, for my future tutorials on YouTube and especially on Patreon, I will have to integrate AI workflows and tell you also how you can combine it with your 3D technical skills, with your art direction. But yeah, I think that this will just enhance our workflows, and I will just show you how it could streamline certain processes for you. But of course, my focus will be still on 3D. And by the way, here is a failed artwork. Okay, this one looked horrible with the snowman. Oh man, I should get rid of this one. So anyway, please tell me what you think about this whole AI 3D topic, how you feel about it. I'm super curious what you think. So thank you so much for your time. See you in the next tutorial. Bye everyone.